Inkling is one of the most unique characters in Smash. They're the only character in the game that has the ink mechanic that requires the Inkling to spray the opponent and constantly refill their ink tank. When the ink is on the opponents, the Inkling's attacks become more powerful and do more damage. And because we're talking about the Inkling today, I'm probably going to say ink a lot, so buckle up for that. Jokes aside, it's a very interesting idea for importing a mechanic that is so integral to Splatoon as a series, putting it in a completely different game like Smash Bros. Inkling on paper is a devious character. Their positives write themselves. They have a deceptive dash speed that makes them go low profile, very fast. Their grab game complements their aerials, and their frame data is great. They're a combo-centric character. They're buttery smooth with a brand new mechanic. What could go wrong? Every Super Smash Bros. Game, there's a group of characters that are overrated and end up being not as good as what people thought they were. In fact, I made a whole video on the concept and listed out a character for each game. In Smash Ultimate, I brought up Chrom as a character where you could actually see their fall off in the meta by comparing early 2018 Smash Ultimate tier lists and compare them to today's tier list, and there's an obvious fall for the character, especially for his clone counterpart Roy being the more successful high tier character and Chrom being a mid tier. However, there was one character that you guys actually brought to my attention, and I didn't realize the demand to tell this character's story right away. While Chrom's fall was a little bit more obvious, there was actually another character's fall that was more of a slow burn. This has to be one of the most overrated characters in Smash Ultimate's whole lifespan, and it was the one and only Inkling. This is no way me dunking on the character. In fact, if you're an Inkling main, there's nothing wrong with that. The character isn't the worst character in the game, but they were something that people were banking on being a top tier character, and well, that didn't end up happening. After years of people pushing the character, Inkling is actually near Chrom's placement in the B+ tier, being ranked 46th place. So what happened here? Inkling was a character everyone was saying to watch out for at the launch of Smash Ultimate. People like even Armada were picking up and maining Inkling. It's easy to see why. Inkling is incredibly fast, they're speedy, their overall run speed is the 25th best in the game, they have a lot of bread and butter combos and a unique ink mechanic. But as the years went by, people still tried to push the character, and cracks in their playstyle began to appear. They weren't as perfect as what people thought they were at release. Inkling is trying to be a hit-and-run character. This archetype isn't foreign in Smash, as there's plenty of other characters that fill this niche. Unlike other hit-and-run characters, Inkling doesn't have a consistent KO option, especially when they don't have ink on the opponent. And this seems like a well-duh moment, right? Isn't that the point of the character? Spray ink on the opponent and then KO them and call it a day. Inkling's projectiles don't have as much range as maybe other projectiles in Smash Ultimate would. And even outside of that, Inkling's KO options are inconsistent. Compare them to another hit-and-run character like maybe Sheik or Pikachu. These characters have some burst options that offset their hit-and-run playstyle on paper, but then they can secure KOs later on. While most of Inkling's burst options require ink to KO early. And the character is so well-rounded, it becomes a limiting factor to the character's potential. Moves like forward smash don't have enough range, their spacing tools are inconsistent because of their hitbox sizes, and look, I don't want to rain on Inkling as a character. Their speed is the key benefit to them, but it doesn't matter how fast you are if you don't have the power to back it up. It's why characters like Pikachu and Sheik are the more successful characters in this archetype compared to Inkling, and they don't have an ink mechanic, and yet they're better. Characters like Pyra and Mythra can literally swap in between each other in any given situation. Joker has Arson, Steve is just Steve, and with Inkling you can tell it's supposed to be the ink mechanic that saves this character, but it's not nearly as rewarding in practice at high level tournament. Inkling is reliant on spacing their aerials with their forward air, back air, nair, but their hitbox sizes are super stubby. Initially people thought the character had a consistent KO confirm being up throw into up air. This is a classic Smash combo for a lot of characters. However, Inkling's up throw up air is actually not as good in practice. It's easy to escape out of, it's dependent on the percent and the weight of the opponent, whether they're DIing out or air dodging out of the throw. It just doesn't have as much hit stun on the combo as consistent as they might appear to be. This makes Inkling reliant on things like back throw just to get any sort of KO potential. And yes, the classic pray they don't know how to DI this back throw is the main way Inkling is going to have to secure KOs sometimes. This is the main concern of Inkling. It's their KO power is just not that good, especially if you want to be a top tier character in Smash Ultimate where a lot of them just have crazy amounts of KO power. Because of Inkling's lackluster range, their out of shield options are pretty awkward. Smash Ultimate is known for characters having speedy nairs that are their bread and butter combo tools, but Inkling's nair is just okay. Its range is pretty subpar, and it doesn't help that Inkling was hit with the nerf hammer early on in Smash Ultimate's lifespan. Inkling's roller especially was seen as an impressive tool in the early days. It buried opponents in place and it led to easy KO conversion. However, people thought it held back opponents in place too long, so in future balance patches they nerfed this move's range and opponents are buried for a shorter period of time. This wasn't the only change that Inkling received. They did receive buffs later on, like for example, Pummel has a larger hitbox, Inkling can act earlier out of the ink refill, F-Tilt got a 1% damage buff, Forward Smash has sour spots that are easier to hit, Up Tilt has additional hitboxes around the move to hit low profile characters, and Splatter Shot has slightly more range. The buffs were pretty minor and ultimately didn't help the character that much. Inkling clearly had negatives that never got fixed even to this day. This might be a weird connection, but hear me out. Inkling is essentially the Melee Mario of Smash Ultimate, a character that people thought were just gonna be an easy top tier, but their jack of all trades qualities and their lack of having any KO potential kept them from being a top tier. A true jack of all trades, but master of none. How would I fix them? So I'll call myself out. I'm a filthy Ness main and I'm proud of it. I don't main Inkling personally, but I asked people on my Discord and did my own research on what Inkling could use as far as buffs go. And I won't alarm you guys, I'm very modest with changes to Smash Ultimate's roster because the roster is overall very close-knit and mostly balanced, unless we're talking about Steve. I'm not going to give Inkling a frame 1 shine or a bunch of broken changes. I'm going to stay in the realm of realism and stay within what the balance team would have possibly done if they wanted to change Inkling's moveset further. And of course, if you have your own thoughts on Inkling buffs to give them more edge. First off, as we mentioned earlier, Inkling's KO power is rather lackluster. Their best chance of getting KOs is with their ink mechanic. However, outside of that mechanic, they're pretty well rounded and middle of the road. If you compare a lot of Inkling's projectiles to Falco's lasers or Mario's fireballs, you notice that, oh wow, these tools don't have as much range as they probably should have. The thing that I would add to Inkling the most would be a buffed KO power on some of their moves. Despite being a hit and run character, they still can't secure KOs in clutch situations that consistently like other characters could. Forward Smash is based on one of the most popular weapons in Splatoon, so I think it would be fair to give this move a KO buff and a speed buff. You could do a similar change to Inkling's up smash, like giving it a larger sweet spot, and I think Inkling with a better Nair would be a huge buff to their combo game and their out of shield game and edge guarding, whatever. I think the hitbox sizes on Nair should be enlarged and maybe even increase the speed on it too, because almost every character and their mothers have fast snares in Smash Ult. Because Inkling is small and somewhat stubby, I think this is pretty fair. And oh, speaking of forward air, fair, back air, and up air should both get similar buffs in range, making it so these moves can actually reach a little bit further. These moves are integral to Inkling's combo game and neutral. You could honestly buff the character a lot if you change these moves a little bit. You could even decrease the knockback on down throw, and that would make this throw even better as a combo tool. You could maybe decrease it from 100 knockback to 90. I would also make it so up throw has more hit stun, so you can actually do the up throw up air follow up more consistently. And this is Inkling's main KO confirm. Sometimes it's just way too easy for opponents to escape out of it, so this is a good change. I've even seen some Inkling mains mention that they missed the old roller before it was nerfed early on in Smash Ultimate's life cycle. Some Inkling mains think the roller was nerfed too much, and maybe some of these changes should be rolled back. Okay, I know that was maybe a pun, I'm proud of it though. The last change I could see personally is slight changes to Inkling's ink mechanic. Inkling can be beat by simply holding shield, and you can kind of just run away from them because of their lack of range and they're not going to catch you that easily. Some Inkling mains have brought up the idea of possibly their ink going through shields, or maybe ink doing more shield damage. I thought those were interesting ideas because, let's be real, Inkling's ink mechanic is a good idea, but it's not as cheesy as some of the other top tier's character mechanics. So maybe tiny little buffs to ink could make the mechanic more rewarding for the character. The goal isn't to make the Inkling into some busted, crazy character, but to give them a little bit more edge that I think the character is lacking. Which I think is fair because Inkling is such a unique character. I think these changes would make them better long term. All in all, I think the Inkling is a cool character. I just think it's it's a shame that they didn't get the shine that they initially had when the game came out, and then over time they dropped to being a mid-tier. Thank you guys for watching the video. There's content early on Patreon down below, so if you guys want videos early or just support the channel in any way, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Also, there's 30 minutes of content on Medify. Check that out. There's some exclusive videos on there that aren't on the channel, so if you guys are fans of the content, check it out on there. Thank you guys so much for watching the video.